What it mean to be the best? Riding foes, feeling unimpressed. Make me reminisce, throwing bows. Been in the corner, set my mind up on a goal. All I know is stay down, bad, I'm the GOAT. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Not ain't no debate. Yeah. Okay, feel like the best, the great. Not ain't no debate. Yeah. I ain't gotta say much. Know the boy got a touch. Another win for the rush. Another win for the rush. See me once and got a crush. See you twice and that's enough. Get the ring sized up.
Welcome in. We are back. Tell the truth in the midst of an all season for the Chiefs and in the midst of the NFL playoffs. Happy to be back with you guys, DG, CJ, alongside yours truly, DMac. And look, the Chiefs have made some offensive staff hirings to talk about. Obviously, the major headline is, of course, Eric Bieniemy has returned to Kansas City after a one-year stint as the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator and then head coach at UCLA. And then ultimately, or I should say offensive coordinator at UCLA, and then the running back coach this past season for the Chicago Bears, whose season did end over the weekend, and immediately came out the night of that the Chiefs had been talking to Eric Bieniemy and wanting to have him back as the offensive coordinator. Does not seem like there has been any significant, public, I'll say, moves to try and interview other people for the position, and appears it is official that Eric Bieniemy will be returning as the offensive coordinator. We also have a new wide receivers coach, Chad O'Shea, who did ultimately work on the same staff with Eric Bieniemy under Brad Childress in Minnesota in late 2000. Spent the bulk of his career from 2009 until 2018 with the New England Patriots, coaching their wide receiver room. Also, I did a one-year stint as a Miami Dolphins offensive coordinator, and then ultimately went to the Cleveland Browns to be the wide receivers coach for the last 5 years under Mr. Kevin Stefanski. The CJ got out the room because he's afraid of what we're going to say. No, I'm kidding. He'll be back in a second. So a little bit of same place, same face for Eric Bieniemy returning as the offensive coordinator. Of course, the other aspect of this is Matt Nagy. Did not end up getting the Tennessee Titans head coaching job, but we will see what ends up happening. Does appear that he's going to move on to some place in which he can have a little bit more of a say as far as the offensive coordinator position is concerned, as his contract did expire and he's not expected to return to Kansas City in, it appears, any capacity as of right now. So with all of that being laid out, DG, CJ, how you guys feeling, man?
I don't know. I'll let CJ go.
I have my guy for the Senior Bowl too, or American Bowl. I got my guy I want to watch. But EB overall sentiments are kind of the same. Don't hate it, don't love it. It is what it is. This is the guy that Pat wanted, so that part is encouraging. But at the end of the day, real change starts with looking within, in my opinion. I'm all for bringing in new faces. I'm all for bringing in new ideas. I'm never the one that's against change, especially when it comes to a game like football. Really any professional sport, but more so this one is forever evolving, forever changing. So I'm glad EB's back in Kansas City, just like a personal standpoint. I mean, obviously we've all been around him and got to know his family. They're great people. So I know having him here was always a great attitude booster for this group. They always had a high intensity and they had much respect for EB. So I do think that part is better, more so than the replacement of Nagy. So the respect factor will be there. Guys will be more attentive to detail, be more locked in. But from an X's and O's standpoint, we need to be better. We need to get to the basics. We need to get to things that help this offense expand and grow. And if we're not willing to look in the mirror and admit when we're wrong, then we're going to be stuck in the same place, regardless if EB was here or not. So happy the person is here, happy the coach is here. He's going to add things to our group as far as a mental standpoint. I think it's going to make us better. But at the end of the day, from an X's and O's standpoint, those changes need to come from within, from Andy. He has to admit when he's wrong, and it's okay to make mistakes. It's just how you correct your mistakes is my biggest thing. And that's anybody that's knowing any professional business, the greatest threat to success is complacency. And if you're complacent, most of the time you keep losing. Or you stay the same, you don't ever get better. It's either one or the other. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Glad EB's back. Not super ecstatic about it, but I'm happy the person is back in Kansas City for sure.
Well, if you're not getting better, in my opinion, then you're moving backwards. It's the rest of the league is
That's how
getting
it
better
is.
around you. That is an absolute fact. DG, I'm gonna ask you how you're feeling, but did something happen? Is it because Indiana won the championship that we had to tear down the Texas banner?
Hoosier.
Oh no,
Is it
no,
because of Big Ten won that we have to get rid of the? That's just what
no.
happens to the
I'm in the process of moving. I just moved to a new place, so I'm still trying to get set up over here or whatever. I was going to put that up, but then like
He was like,
we started the show, and yeah, I was like, never mind or whatever. At least I got the Chiefs one up or whatever. So I mean,
You got it.
soon as this will all be, done up really well and stuff like
Yes.
that. So, man, yeah, I am. I'm not upset that EB is back, but I'm not also ecstatic about EB being back. I've been thinking about this all day. Of course, some people may know who hopped in here that out of space yesterday and things of that nature. We obviously talked about it in the aftermath of finding out. Then obviously having time to sleep on it and think about it. There's a little bit more lot calmer tone or whatever. But my whole point in EB coming back is I'm curious to know what the change is in all of this. We spent the whole season talking about how this offense needed to change and that there needed to be different things, there's new ideas, things of that nature. And it just seems like we keep going back to the well, And I understand that the well has worked at points in time. That it's ultimately has led us to success. But eventually, as everybody knows, the well runs dry at some point in time. You can't always keep going back to it and having the same results. So, although I love EB the person and the coach as well too, I love the accountability that he brings to this organization. I just think, for me, schematically wise, it doesn't change a lot of what we want to see. And I know people were just saying, sit and wait and watch and let's find out or whatever. But if it's a lot of the same of what we saw this from a schematic point, we're wasting time. And I don't really understand. Now, obviously, yesterday I got ridiculed for that opinion or whatever. I didn't realize that opinion was a bad one to have. Didn't realize that I had to agree with everything that the Chiefs necessarily do. I think this speaks more volume to Andy saying that he knows what he's doing. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that he doesn't know what he's doing, but this obviously tells you that Andy thinks his system works and it doesn't need a lot of change. It just needs same voices that's been here before. So, like I said, I'm middle ground on it. Like CJ said, I'm not thrilled about it, but I'm not at a point where I'm doom and gloom about it. If this is the case of where they want to go with this, you got to produce the results. And if you don't produce the results, then a lot of bad things are going to happen. I know people were saying that we got chances and opportunities. This is we've been winning so much and we can afford to take a year off. No, you can't. You can't afford to take any time off of winning. The window only gets smaller as we go on. So every opportunity you have to maximize that window, you have to take a chance at it. Just don't see how this maximizes the window. That's my step.
Well, it's understandable. Oh, am I getting feedback? Okay, I'm good. I will say this based on a lot of things that have been said on the timeline. A lot of people that want to take a very strong stance. I guess I suppose in and of itself, I have taken a strong stance in some ways. To explain my positioning on this, I am slightly pessimistic. I'm slightly pessimistic, more so for the process than the result, and the reason being, I really thought that this would be a great opportunity to Andy Reid himself signal that he is open to new ideas and say, hey, let's talk to people outside of my comfort zone, what I continue to bring back into the room, and say, hey, let's talk to some of these other people. And even if I don't necessarily end up taking them, but at least to be able to have those conversations and figure out where they feel like they could improve the offense, figure out any ideas that they may give you as a result of those conversations. And more specifically, just get you in different rooms with different people so that you can say, hey, by comparison, I like this about this candidate compared to other candidates. The fact that they chose not to do so is a process that concerns me. There's no two ways about it. It feels like, and based on everything that we've been told and led to believe as far as reporting is concerned, this was not only talked about from the end of the season on, this was talked about somewhere near, December, as far as on, for Eric Bieniemy to come in and be the assumed offensive coordinator here after what had been a very disastrous season as far as the Chiefs and the offense specifically is concerned. And so the fact that this was always going to be, hey, we are getting to the point where Eric Bieniemy is taking over for Matt Nagy's expiring contract just feels very convenient for that to be the end result. And I don't think that it's a good process that they landed there. So that's where the root of my frustrations with that come. And the reason why I'm frustrated with that process specifically is because I think it's very important for this offense to have significant change to it. And I'm not talking about upgrading the running back position, which they need to do and should do regardless. I'm not talking about adding a certain type of wide receiver to this team, which I think that they do need to do. I'm not talking about adjusting things at the tight end position. I'm not even talking about getting the tackles healthy, which hopefully they will be moving forward. It's the schematic aspect of it. It's the things that have Tony Jefferson coming into press conferences after playing the Chiefs and saying, hey, we knew what they were doing and we were driving on their passes because we knew exactly what they were running. That type of stuff can't continue. It's us coming in every single week and looking at this team and being like, why are you lined up with Rashee Rice and running back on 3rd and 2 from the shotgun? It's us coming in every single week and saying these passing concepts are not being able to maximize these wide receivers. It's us coming every single weekend and saying running outside zone from shotgun is not only terrible for your running back specifically, but not the most efficient way to be able to attack modern defenses. It's us looking at the all-22 every week and saying the linebackers of the entire defense are not taking any steps forward because they have no threat of the run. So the fact that we, or I'll say myself specifically, really wanted to see the evolution of this offense be able to attack on the ground, take advantage of what is, in my opinion, a very good run blocking offense, particularly an awesome interior trio, in my personal opinion, with the way that Kingsley Suamataia stepped up to the plate this year, and be able to build that run game effectively to then marry to a play action pass game that not only makes things easier for Patrick Mahomes, but also accentuates the wide receivers and creates explosives on a consistent basis. So it's not simply that EB can't do those things. It's not that he can't help with that. It's possible that he does. That is very much on the table. It's just the process to get to EB and the fact that you then, of course, landed on EB ultimately without going through said process doesn't make me all that hopeful for it necessarily happening. That being said, it can, and I don't know if it will. The other side of it is the positives that EB brings. You got to talk about those. He is a guy that does bring accountability to a room. He will coach everybody in the room hard. He will coach them all the same. If you make a mistake, he will let you know. I am not saying all of a sudden that the Chiefs are going to go without penalties. We know, obviously, they were one of the most penalized offenses in the league, even when EB was here. I'm not going to say that they're going to go without drops because we've seen wide receivers dropping on EB too. It is something to be said that they are not going to be comfortable when they go to work in that room. Nobody's going to be comfortable because EB won't allow that. And that's a good thing. That is a good thing. It seemed like there was an air of comfortability and complacency that did set in with that offensive side. We can talk about the entirety of the team too, but that is something that he won't allow, which is a good thing. Then the other side of it is how much had he learned from a guy like Ben Johnson to be able to implement here? We will see as far as that aspect. People that say that obviously it's a positive that the team loves him and Patrick loves him. I'll be honest, doesn't necessarily mean all that much to me because they love Matt Nagy too. It doesn't necessarily mean much to me. I don't need you to love him as a coach. I need you to get in line for it, which he does. He does have his guys play hard and he does hold them accountable. So it's a positive. So that's why I am lukewarm and I'm pessimistic on EB as a hire. And I just would feel a whole lot better. And again, I don't dictate the process. There are other things that go into it as well. I'm not going to be naive to say that, that I know it all. But I just would have felt better if the end of this process of talking to multiple people outside the building and saying, hey, EB is the best guy for the job. And that's why we're bringing him in. So, CJ, you're the more optimistic person on this panel. Do you have anything to add?
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I'm all for change. I'm all for making the group better. So I'm never going to be against bringing in outside voices because at the end of the day, football is it's not complicated, DG, but it's not simplified either, if that makes sense. Like, there are certain things in a game that you need to do to make your life easier as an offense, and there's things you can do that can make your life more difficult. I think last year we took the more difficult route. I think we all can agree with that. There are a lot of things in this offense that we could have implemented. We've been screaming them from the mountaintops, like less shotgun, more under center, more power, more duo schemes to help your run game get more downhill, more so to help your running backs have a more clear picture of what they're looking at, and to help your linemen stay more aggressive. And then that run game alone builds on to play action, helps your receivers get cleaner looks, helps them get one-on-ones, helps them get more free routes to run open and make plays, and use their speed and run after catchability, which we know Rasheed and Xavier Worthy possess. I think at times the coaching this year was lazy, and that's to be expected. Like I just said, the greatest threat to success is complacency. So if EB can bring back that intensity, relight that fire, get under a lot of players and the coaches behind, and get them fired up and get them ready to play every week, I'm all for that. Now, could another coach have done that same thing? I agree, but we all know how coaching is. It's kind of a boys' club. Guys hire who they're comfortable with. We just saw it in Green Bay. That GM who took the job immediately grabbed a coach from Green Bay and brought him down there with them. John Mara has a relationship with John Harbaugh off the field, and that's who took the job. So it's like it does
appear that did not work out for Matt Nagy and Mike Wagonzi in Tennessee as they hired Robert Sullivan.
Exactly. So it's like I'm not like saying it's like that's why I'm trying to be like cautiously optimistic. Like, can EB help the offense be better? Absolutely. It's not a negative in no way, shape, or form. We will be a better offense regardless. Just because EB being here, I truly believe that. Will we be the offense that I want to be or that most of us think we should be? That part is yet to be seen. I think that's fair to say. And that's kind of like the wait and see moment that a lot of us are in mode we all are in. But at the end of the day, for me, it's like it comes from the big dog, which is Andy, because you have to look in the mirror, bro. And I don't mind you making mistakes. Like we said, DG, we have had a lot of success over the last 8 years. That is true. But that doesn't mean you have to be complacent the next 8 years either. So that's the thing about being a coach and being a successful in any professional field. How do you keep yourself driven? How do you keep yourself motivated every year? So I think EB will bring that fire back to the group. But at the end of the day, Andy has to look in the mirror, admit his mistakes. It's okay to make a mistake. I'm not like, do I hate the way that I'm upset the way the year went it last year? I didn't want it to go like that. But I'm also not going to just fire Andy off of 1 year. But I think to DG and DMac's point, it is fair. If we have another year where the offense looks lackluster, it's lazy, no creativity in the offense, you have to start looking around like, hey, what are we doing? I'll give you a year to make some mistakes. Nobody's absolved from criticism because none of us are perfect. Even if Andy Reid, no matter how good of a coach he is, or Patrick Mahomes, we all make mistakes. What are you willing to do to fix it is my biggest thing. I don't mind if you make a mistake. Are you willing to man up, admit you're wrong, and correct it? Because I think we all can agree the offense was a little lazy at times. And I think Andy would tell you that. But the biggest thing is, what are we going to do to fix it this offseason? And that's what I'm most excited about. And it's a great opportunity, and I think EB will help us do that for sure. But it all starts with Andy for me.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to say. The idea that this is, hey, either Andy Reid was going to change or he never was going to. I just thought that talking to people outside the building would have been a better signal that he was more open to the change that I think that they need to have happen. That being said, of course, it doesn't mean that he can't change. But I just didn't understand necessarily and this is not in talking about the Chiefs as a criticism, but I didn't understand some of the Chiefs fans' responses being, well, it didn't matter because Andy Reid was never going to change. If that's the case, then the thing that just happened last year that was a result of not changing enough on offense would then just happen again on offense this year, which is a big problem if that happens. And I know the argument is, well, you just upgrade the talent. I don't think that's enough based on things that we saw on film and the way that things were being implemented. The structure of the offense had issues. And B, I don't know why you would just settle for upgrading the talent. That's just me. DG, you look like you wanted to jump in with something.
I just like who holds Andy accountable?
Well, it's funny. Matt Vetteram said it on their show. He said it. Andy Reid is God as far as Kansas City is concerned, that is his position in the franchise. It was his position in 2013. That's what That's what Clark Hunt wanted to hire him for, and there you go. So he's not accountable to anybody. I suppose maybe Clark Hunt's checkbook by a little bit, but that's pretty much it.
I just look, man. Like I said, I am not in no shape or form saying get rid of Andy Reid or fire him or make him leave town. But it does come a point in time where you start to see, and then we've been the last 3 years, especially on the offensive side of the ball for this team, has not been pretty. I don't care how people. Yes, I understand. Oh, we went back-to-back Super Bowls, DG. Like, I get that. Great. Perfect. I'm glad that happened. But at the end of the day, eventually, it starts to get old and people start to figure you out. And I'm sorry, you got this year. Like, eventually, people look at it and say, this scheme isn't working anymore. The most baffling part for me this year, and I said this over and over again in our space, when Tony Jefferson, a veteran like Tony Jefferson, knows what you're running, what's coming, sitting on every route. Derwin James says it. Everybody in your division, that's the people you play twice a year. When Sean Payton tells you what kind of team you are, that's a glaring issue. The league catches up at some point. We always say at the beginning of the year, offenses are ahead of defenses, and then usually the defenses at the end of the year catch up because there's so much film to put on. We go with a second year, a guy who has a great rookie year comes into his second year now and say, he might have a sophomore slump because there's plenty of film on him now. The league might catch up to him now. It's getting to a point where you're starting to see, and maybe it's just for us because we sit here, we watch the film, and like I said, I'm not saying that I know more ball than the guys that are obviously paid to do this right now or whatever. I don't want to ever put that point out there. But if I can see it on film, I know they can see it. And if you're not willing to change it, then what are we doing? Who's holding who accountable? You mean to tell me I have to bring Eric Bieniemy all the way back from Chicago to hold this whole organization accountable? Nobody couldn't have done that in the last 3 years. I have to have this one man to come back here to hold everybody's hand and tell them where to be, where to line up. I have to tell grown-ass men that get paid to do this. That's so strange to me. And I hate that our fans get on this tangent of that's all that matters. Accountability and structure. That's what this offense needs. No. The offense needs new schematic ideas. This the same way you're seeing. Why do people think Ben Johnson gets hired? You think he just got hired just because, he's a young great coach. Like, why do you think Sean McVay's in the NFC Championship again? Because each year it's an evolving door. They evolve each year. It doesn't matter who's in that system. Cooper Kupp, get rid of him. Bring in Puka Nacua. OBJ, get rid of him. Bring in Devontae Adams. The people change and the scheme changes. Like, I don't understand how we can sit here and not see this. It makes literally no sense to me. And I just want to know, like, who's gonna. So if this all goes left, right? Say, we're talking in worst case scenario, because I'm the type of person, like, yes, I love to be optimistic, but at the same time, I also plan for the worst.
Hope for the best, plan for the worst.
It's the way I live my life, especially as a man with a wife and kids on the way. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. What happens if this goes left, and who's to blame for all of this? Are we gonna blame EB? Because you're telling me he's the one that's supposed to fix it. Are we blaming Andy Reid? Because he's the man that correlates all this, the head honcho in charge. Clark Hunt? Brett Veach? Who gets the blame? Patrick Mahomes? Who gets the blame? Like,
so all of them for me, but that's just me.
Well, of course, we are going to evaluate based on what ends up happening, and we don't know what will end up happening. The thing I'll say is this: if the offense continues to structurally, and I emphasize structurally, look similar for the way that they're running the ball, for the way that they're not making life easier on Patrick Mahomes whenever he may play next year, and for the lack of good usage as far as the wide receivers are concerned, then I'm not going to blame Eric Bieniemy, because what did EB come back and do? Do exactly what Andy Reid wanted him to do. That's why he got hired back. I'm going to blame Andy Reid. If this offense doesn't change and make things better and easier on Patrick Mahomes, it's Andy Reid. And he's the person that's got to answer for it. And my fear as far as this is concerned is that not that EB is being brought back to scapegoat, because you can't really scapegoat two straight offensive coordinators. It's not really how this goes. My fear is they're going to go through this offseason, improve the talent on this team, and then try and use that same talent, or I should say use that new talent the same way they did last year.
Run the same offense.
And then and my fear is it doesn't go well. And if it doesn't go well, people are going to say it's the talent's fault. And they're going to be like, Brett Veach needs,
extreme.
they're going to say Brett Veach needs to go instead of Andy Reid, when they might be just missing the real point here. So we'll see what ends up happening. And
like everything too, like both people are right. And I've said this the last 2 days. Nobody's wrong in the assessment of the EB situation. DMac and DG are right. I'm right. People we talk to, we all want the same goal. We all want to get to the same endpoint, see this offense be efficient, effective, aggressive, and get back to scoring 30 points and averaging in the high 20s like we've been the most of the time Andy Reid's been here. But to do that, again, there's nothing wrong with change. I know coaches can be very stubborn. Andy Reid's not above that. There's plenty of other coaches, the Sean McVay, the Kyle Shanahan, they're stubborn as hell too. Trust me, it ain't just an Andy Reid issue. Let's get that first and foremost. I think a lot of other fans across the timeline, DMac, think Andy Reid's the only one with this issue. Trust me, he's not the only one. Plenty of coaches do that. But one thing I have seen Kyle and Sean do, they are willing to adapt. They are willing to change. And that's one thing that we have to do. But we all agree it's a wait and see moment. But so far, we haven't seen too much change. We've seen a little bit with the EB situation, but it's not the ultimate change that most of us wanted to see. But it's a wait and see moment overall. Because at the end of the day, Andy, it's your offense. You have to be willing to look in the mirror. And I know you can do it because the adjustments that we're looking for, I've seen them do it. They just don't commit to it. And hopefully we get that this year.
I don't know. I guess there's two things. Really three things. I'm going to start with the Kyle and McVay point. The thing about those two guys is almost every year, you can point to something that they were doing structurally or schematically different that is really impressive.
Facts.
And it's not, and it doesn't necessarily have to be spurred on by as bad of a year as we just had.
Exactly.
The 49ers do have some down years. But just this year, Kyle Juszczyk, and again, he's a very unique player. So I'm not saying that Andy Reid should be doing these things, but the way that Kyle Juszczyk has been used as far as a short motion from the tight end to fullback position to try and get them in a good place as far as the run game structurally is concerned has been a very nice wrinkle for Shanahan to use throughout the entirety of the season. Yep. Sean McVay coming into this year obviously added Devontae Adams, and that has helped their red zone offense specifically, and they needed it for man coverage. But structurally, they adjusted to using heavy personnel more often because he knew that that was a way to beat modern defenses. And they've done it very effectively this year. So then those are two just kind of minor, kind of major, wherever you want to place them, evolutions of these schemes that have already been operating at a really high level that I would say are more significant than any evolution than we've seen from Andy Reid in the past 3 years, just this year from those two guys. And so that leads me to the next point of, I don't know how much I really could say Andy Reid by himself can evolve this offense in the ways that it needs to as far as a modern defense. Has he been able to design an under center run game in the past? Absolutely. We know that. Has he been able to design play action passes off of that? Absolutely. Can he do it in the way that is going to demand to be able to make things easier on Patrick Mahomes in this modern era? We're going to see, I suppose. The third thing is, I know you are taking the very how do you say, the very diplomatic stance about everybody wanting to get to the end goal. And so by extension, everybody is right to a certain extent. I simply disagree. If you watched that scheme last year and thought there was nothing structurally wrong with the offense, it was simply a talent issue, I do believe you're wrong. I will say that point blank, period. I do truly feel that way. We can clip that and put that out. So that is just my personal stance as far as that is concerned. With that being said,
I agree.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I know
talent and X's and O's both matter for sure. Can't say one matters more than the other. They both matter. If you're a football fan and you love football, we want to have great play calls, but you also need players. Both matter.
They both need to change. I guess the thing is, every single season, I know Veach is evaluating, operating, and understanding. I need to improve the talent on this team, and those changes are very clear. In a similar manner, I would personally say they're as clear as getting rid of Matt Nagy, Connor Embry, Todd Pinkston. Like they are very obvious that those things need to happen. I am more concerned about the non-obvious structural changes that I think need to happen for this team that I'm not sure are going to happen because I that process doesn't feel as I don't want to say as trustworthy as I wish it would with Andy Reid to this point, but we'll see ultimately what it moves on to. Anything specifically EB was related, but we can go ahead and fold this into the Chad O'Shea hire as far as that is concerned. So Chad O'Shea is the new wide receivers coach. Again, like I had mentioned, he did work with Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland for the past 5 years, most recently. Before that, he was the longtime wide receiver coach from 2009 until 2018 with the New England Patriots. And then prior to that, he did work on the same staff with Eric Bieniemy in Minnesota under Brad Childress, who, of course, is an Andy Reid disciple as well. So the thing that you want to highlight, and I did want to just pull this up, it's a list that I put together just of kind of the notable wide receivers under him. And again, I put together this list not necessarily to try and diminish what he brings to the table. And I'm going to have something positive to hear to talk about here in a bit. But this is kind of just running down some of the notable guys. Obviously, the 2010s Patriots, you're talking about Wes Welker. He did have 2 1,000-yard seasons before. Chad was there at the wide receivers coach. We know Randy Moss was. Julian Edelman did develop under him. However, from everything I pretty much heard was that it was more so about him stalking Tom Brady. However, we will have a clip to talk about that in a little bit here. Brandon Cooks was kind of established in New Orleans before getting to New England. I don't think Chris Hogan was necessarily that much of a success story compared to what he did in Buffalo compared to New England. Amari Cooper was already stamped in both Oakland and Dallas. Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Parker did have 1 year really success stories under Kevin Stefanski, under Chris O'Shea. Jeudy in Cleveland, Devontae Parker for the 1 year in which Chris was the offensive coordinator in Miami, and then Bernard Berrien in Minnesota did have himself a 900-yard year, but did also have one of those in Chicago prior to that. And then OBJ and Landry both came over to Cleveland as well. I'll ask you guys how you feel about the hire, and then I'll get to how I feel, and then obviously the clip I wanted to show as well.
Go ahead.
I mean, I'm glad we got a so-called adult in the room. Not to be mean to Connor, but I mean, just there's always like a notion of, is a guy too young and too raw to be in this position? But conversely, compared to, do you want an older guy who's been there and done that before? I think in that room, given the fact that we had so much talent that was guys that showed a lot of speed and an ability to do things like Worthy, guys that have special rounds of catchability like Rasheed, I think they needed more like a fine-tuned coach who could help them bring the best out of them from a maturity standpoint, because they've shown they can play. They just had some kind of mental lapses at times. And I think that's probably attached to having a younger coach who may be a little more lax, not as, overall aggressive or more stern like an older veteran coach who's been around. Obviously, Connor's a very young coach, a guy who's probably going to get more opportunities down the line, but Chad O'Shea has been around since the early 2000s. I think he's 53 years old, so obviously he's a guy that's been around the block for a while and coached a lot of great guys, like DMac just stated, the Wes Welkers, the Edelmans, the Perrimans, the Danny Amendolas, the Randy Mosses. Like, he's been around a lot of good players, been around a lot of good football, so he's seen a lot. So when he talks to guys, and unfortunately, I notice myself because I coach kids every day, kids respect coaches who've been there and done it and been around the best. It's not fair, because obviously there are other great coaches who can not necessarily been on that level, but still very mindful. But players respect coaches who not only know the game, but who also can respect it, and they can also claim to, hey, this is what I did, and this is where I did it, and this was the result. So now you have a guy like Chad coming in who's been in a lot of good rooms, been around a lot of good players, been in some high leverage moments, and that's the biggest point for me. I love coaches who have, and I think players need this as well, I love coaches who have coached at other places before, but I love coaches who have been in high leverage moments. What do you perform like when it's playoffs? How do you perform when it's a championship environment? No disrespect, a lot of coaches can coach well when you're 2-14. If you're a 20-win basketball team, it's cute, but it's like, bro, you're losing every year. What do you do when you're in high leverage moments? How did your group perform then? I think that just shows the true definition of a coach, and more so his group. How do they perform when their work best is required? I think Chad has been around good groups that have had to do that, and I think he can bring some of that advice, some of that veteran presence, and some of that relatability he can bring to the group, because he's been around guys that have tried to extend their dynasty similar to us, just like New England was trying to do. He knows what that pressure is like to be in that moment when you have to perform for a Hall of Fame quarterback, when you're expected to win every single year. If you drop a pass, everybody's going to be getting on your head via the media, via social media, about you not performing. He knows what that's like, because he's been in those rooms, he's been under those lights for years. So I think he can relate to those guys in that moment. So I'm excited to see what he does here. Obviously, he didn't really have like the greatest developmental list, like DMac stated, but I think he can relate to guys about how you have to perform when your best is required. And obviously, we've been in a lot of Super Bowls, so obviously we've been performing at a high level. But to DG's point, how do you extend your career? How do you extend this window? And I think a guy like him can do that, because he's been in this exact same situation in New England.
I'll be positive about. I love this. This was a hire that I felt like was very necessary, and it just speaks to what CJ just said. You needed an adult in the room. All respect and love to Connor Embry, and wish him nothing but the best. But those guys didn't respect him. And I think that speaks volumes, especially when it starts coming out from reporters and things of that nature. They just weren't responding well to what whatever he was telling them, and I don't think he was telling them much at all. Especially when it comes out that DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce are more of the receiver coaches than he is. So I love this move just because of the experience that Chad O'Shea brings, the championship pedigree that he's been around. Obviously, the stops in New England, you know what the expectation is for him, and I expect him to bring that fire that most of these young receivers in the room, and it equates. We have a very young room with Rashee Rice, Jalen Royals, and Xavier Worthy, guys who I think can all potentially turn into great players with proper coaching, with proper people, putting the right things speaking the right things into their ears. So this to me is as a necessary move that I love that Andy made. And I don't have any negative things to say about it. I can't wait to see what he brings to the table, or how much different this room looks going into next year. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here. So love the track record that he has. Although I know it's not a lot of humongous names or anything like that, but I love the organizations that he's played with, and I like the fact that he's a veteran coach in this league, and he's been around for a while. So definitely with it, and God, hopefully it ends up working.
Yeah. I'm mad at it. Look, I'm. This one does make me optimistic for the growth of the room. And I know, again, I ran through the list of wide receivers. I know it may not be all that impressive. It didn't stand out to me either. But you talk about the things that you can take from where he worked, and working on the Kevin Stefanski. There is a level of detail that comes with the wide receivers getting to their landmarks, certainly off of a play action mindset from that aspect too, that I think is worthwhile, and being able to say that, hey, he was able to teach wide receivers under this circumstance, that makes you feel better. Specifically the 2010s Patriots. We know that working with Tom Brady as a wide receiver means that you have to be very precise as far as your route running is concerned, and be in tune as far as the timing. I think this wide receiver room really badly needs that. And then you talk about just the experience overall, coming off of having Connor Embry there, which he didn't have the experience to coach wide receivers. That's just the reality. Now being able to have him here does help a lot. And so I did want to add just this context as far as what Julian Edelman did say about Chris O'Shea.
Their team. Now, Chad O'Shea, my coach, receivers coach, he would show a bunch of, we'd watch like 10 to 15 plays of how we're going to have to go in and block guys for the force, or how their DBs are, in the run game. And then he'd have individual 30 play cut-ups of each corner that you're going to defend, with highlighted examples of what their strengths were, highlighted examples of what their weaknesses or what they struggled with.
So that being able to say that, hey, this is a coach that has a wealth of experience of saying, I'm going to bring in every single week, I'm going to give you what their DBs do well, what they don't do well, and then also add in, because this is a big piece of it, this is what you need to be able to do to make sure our run game is functioning on this week. That, from a game plan perspective, is a massive upgrade over, again, all due respect to Connor Embry, I am sure what they were getting from previous wide receiver coaching. So you need that, especially when you have as young of a wide receiver core that we're talking about. And if you are going to develop in the ways that I think that they need to, those things will help. Now, as far as any great individual leaps, I think that some of that falls back on these guys individually. Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, who we will be talking about next week, specifically Jalen Royals, who we did talk about previously. Those guys need to get better individually so that they'll be ready to come in at training camp and hit the ground running. And then their talents will show up with the proper coaching and being put in positions to succeed as far as things are moving forward on a game plan week-to-week basis. And that's where a guy like Chad O'Shea, because of his knowledge, because of his experience, and specifically because of the way that Julian Edelman describes he does things on a game plan week in, week out basis, I think will help significantly. So
I do like how he did the breakdowns, like you said, like when he's showing clips. And I know, as a player, for me, when I see clips, I love to see examples from previous teams who had success. So when he shows those clips, I guarantee you he will show you undrafted receiver in Julian Edelman digging out a safety to crack back and try to get a boost for a big run on the run play. I guarantee you he's going to show Wes Welker or Danny Amendola or Randy Moss running a route, knowing they're not going to get the ball, but they still run the route 100% and run it to a precise depth and speed. But when you show those clips and you're showing guys who have done it in big moments, that was kind of my point. And Julian kind of hit it on it. He's going to show those details. He's going to show those clips. But when you're also showing players who have had this success, and this is what it leads to, greatness, Hall of Fame status, championships, it hits even harder when a player sees that, okay, coach is trying to tell me from an X's and O's standpoint, but he's also showing me guys who have done it in big moments. And I think it's going to resonate more with the young guys like DMac just said.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a certain cachet that does come with it when you can say, hey, y'all want to talk about what it takes to win. I know what it takes to win.
Did it for a long time.
I've known it for a long time. So that does really make a difference as far as that aspect. And I think that you also mentioned something specifically about the blocking, certain guys, how do you go and get on the field? How do you earn reps? This is the type of stuff that you have to do. Absolutely. And then the other aspect of running routes, even if you're not necessarily designed to get the ball.
Absolutely.
There were far too many times that we saw on tape, Xavier Worthy jogging through a route, Rasheed Rice jogging through a route. That's unacceptable. That can't happen, especially if you guys are going to be the number 1 and number 2 guys in this room. That cannot happen.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Y'all got to if he can show an Edelman, a guy who was undrafted, who was going to get cut, who was fighting for his life to make the roster, what's your excuse, Xavier Worthy? There is none. So when you try to have a bad route or you have a drop, and that's what kind of pissed me off after the Texans game when Trav and Rasheed left the building. Why aren't you standing there answering questions? I don't care that you dropped the ball. I mean, I was upset. I don't want to ever see you drop the ball, but be accountable. Be the leader in the room. It's okay to make mistakes. That's fine. It happens. You're going to have drops. But to not want to stand up to the media and say, hey, I let us down tonight. That's my fault. I have to be better. It's okay to make a mistake, but to not own up to it, that's the part that gets me. So when Chad shows those clips, if a guy who's fighting for his roster life is going to go out there and do it, Edelman played DB in the middle of a Super Bowl run for the Patriots to get on the field because it didn't matter. He was going to do whatever it takes to win. That's the kind of coach when you say something to a player, you can't give me any lip. You can't give me any pushback because I've seen guys who are lower than you do it, so there's no excuse for you not to do it.
Absolutely.
And I think we desperately need that for sure.
And obviously you mentioned as far as accountability is concerned, this is where I do believe Eric Bieniemy coming back into it does matter because you can't just jog out routes. Obviously the running backs, and there's the famous clip of him coaching up Adrian Peterson as far as training camp is concerned. He's going to bring that to everybody on the team. And Ben Johnson was the guy that did it with the Bears, and I'm sure EB did as well himself as far as those running backs are concerned. But he's going to do it for everybody in that field. So you want to jog through routes? I promise you, EB is going to be screaming in your face every single time that you do.
That's a fact. And he's not afraid to bench you too. He'll play somebody else.
Yeah, he will play somebody else. Absolutely. Which we had a problem with this year as well.
We want to see other guys. Like if he sees a bad rep by Rasheed, Zay, anybody, Jalen, get in there. Like nobody's above reproach. And I think we need that accountability. It's going to bring a sense of urgency to the room. I think that's what DG was trying to say earlier. We need that. I think guys have gotten complacent. And that happens when you win. Like, it's hard to be mentally focused and have that dog mentality when you've had so much success. People telling you how good you are, patting you on your back. You need a guy like Chad O'Shea to get on your ass and say, I don't give a fuck what you've done in the last 5 years. None of that matters right now. You know EB's going to say that. He don't give a fuck because he's been here. He knows what y'all done. We need guys that don't care about what the past is. What are we going to do moving forward? And that's the biggest thing I think those specific rooms need, the running back and the receiver room for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to interviews, hearing them say Coach Chad or Coach O'Shea said this, or you know, you never heard that with and like I said, I respect to Connor Embry, but you never heard that with Connor Embry.
Exactly.
You never were going.
I'm sure he's a nice.
It was more like a peer almost. It wasn't like a coach. You feel me? Yeah.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, man. But yeah, so again, there are positives, and again, as far as the offensive coordinator position, for me, just a little bit more pessimistic. The O'Shea hire, though, I am very excited about specifically. So we will see. Ultimately, now look, we aren't going to necessarily get too many answers as far as what things are going to look like. We'll see going into the offseason what they can maybe give us some clues about what they want to do as far as this offense. But as for now, we will have to wait and see what happens. And there are still some possible changes on this coaching staff we have to watch. Obviously, they do not have a running back coach, so we will see specifically as far as that hire is concerned. With that being said, we're going to shift gears a little bit to it's a draft season. Of course, last night was the national championship game. Tip of the cap to Indiana for finishing off not only one of the best college football seasons of all time, because you got to say that when you go undefeated and win the national championship, but also one of the biggest, quote unquote, upsets in American sports history for what they were able to do compared to what their odds were before the year. Kirk Cignetti doing an awesome job. Fernando Mendoza finishing off a dream season with an awesome touchdown run. And ultimately, we expect Fernando Mendoza to be somebody that we'll see twice a year in a Raiders uniform as well after the draft makes that official this upcoming spring. So shout out to Indiana. Miami still fought hard. I thought that you saw a great Ruben Bain performance, all things considered. And it's still dominating out there, man. That kid is awesome. But with that being said, we do go into All-Star season. And we do have the 2026 American Bowl coming up here on Thursday for those that may be football starved. Say that just from the standpoint that you can, check out some of these guys as far as the roster. And again, we're going to get into more of the All-Star games coming up moving forward. We got the Shrine Bowl next Tuesday, or I guess a week from today, I should say. And then we have the HBCU Legacy Bowl coming up later on in February. Then Panini Senior Bowl also coming up at the end of January too. So we'll be keeping you guys abreast on that. But did want to say, just for the American Bowl, is there anybody that caught your eye that you think that Chiefs fans should keep a lookout for if they do tune into this game?
Go ahead, CJ.
Go ahead, CJ.
I have two. My first one, sleeper. I think where's he at? Okay, Latrell McCutcheon Sr., cornerback, Houston. Older guy, kind of fits our profile for our outside corner. 6 foot, 180. I think he runs a 4.4. Houston had a really good secondary this year. They were really physical. I'm going to dig into more film on him, but I did like the way their secondary played. So he's a guy I definitely want to look at. So I think these are where we find more of our jewels. And if there's any position we hit on, well, it's usually DB. So that's one guy I want to look at. And the other one would be where's he at? Another corner as well. Aiden Garnes out of Arizona, another veteran guy, redshirt senior. He is about 5'11", 185. I think he runs about a 4.5. So I love the way Arizona secondaries play as well. Those are probably the two guys I'm going to do more film and deep dives on. But I do remember watching their secondary specifically because I watch a lot of Big 12 football. So I watched them this year, and their secondaries always played with a lot of aggression and technique. So those are two guys that I definitely want to look at more so going into the American Bowl 2026.
Yeah. DG, you got anybody that caught your eye?
Yeah, it's not like we was talking about earlier. It's not a lot of guys in this game that I'm not like super locked in to focus on. But Eric McAllister, wide receiver out of TSU, TCU, guy who I've been very intrigued in and watching. I think he can be a sleeper for some team that's going to pick him in the later rounds. 6'3", big body receiver. I think would love to watch a lot more film on him, especially after this game, to see him get a little bit more in-game reps against other guys besides, Big 12 defenses. But, definitely a guy I've been intrigued on. I know a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom have claimed they're done with the smaller, gadgety receivers. So this is a guy that I think if you're looking into, getting more into the bigger body receivers, this is definitely a guy that I would love to watch in this game. And then obviously your guy RJ Maryland, definitely want to see what he can bring as far as the tight end guy out of SMU. Definitely intrigued to see what he brings to his game and see him out there on the field and see what he can do.
Yeah, it's funny. You literally picked the two guys that I was going to pick out. Eric McAllister is somebody that has excellent metrics. You talk about yards per run versus Mariner zone. He's really near the top as far as both of those. Like you said, good bodied wide receiver, a guy that you can look at as pretty smooth athlete too. I think he's somebody that's probably going to rise throughout the pre-draft process, and certainly as we get closer to the combine, he'll probably have some level of showcase in this game, and you'll see some clips floating around about him. And then he's going to start rising up some of these draft boards. So keep a lookout for Eric, of course, and then you mentioned RJ Maryland, who I thought showed some flashes at SMU, and specifically I liked him being able to really be an inline blocker and then be able to do things still as far as the receiving game is concerned that I found to be pretty impressive. So those would be two of the guys, and then the other guy I will mention. I saw some flashes from Star Thomas at Tennessee. I won't say it was anything special, but I saw some flashes of it. I'm really going to be checking out all these running backs because it's kind of a thin running back class. I want to see if anybody really can pop off the field and make me want to go back to their tape necessarily from college. So I would say I'm going to be evaluating all these running backs in this American Bowl and then all the All-Star games to try and find some gems as far as this class that I like. But definitely Star Thomas is one of those guys I'll be on the lookout for. And ultimately, when you're coming to All-Star games, you are just looking for guys that are going to pop and be able to show certain flashes of talent, especially when it's on this field where you feel like the talent level is going to be around equal. And then that allows you to go back to the tape and find stuff out about these guys later on. So a little bit as far as the college draft process. Again, we'll be having our Tell the Truth Choose Your Own off season, which will include some mock draft stuff. And then in addition, we will also have our summer scouting series in which we will break down our top 10s at every single position, Chiefs specific fits, our targets that we really like, and then some sleepers and gems as well as we get you ready for the draft later on into the spring. And then obviously we will have our combine preview as well coming up at the end of February too when that rolls around. With that being said, we're going ahead and end off with a little bit of fun. Of course, this is a conference championship weekend that we normally are very much used to. The last 7 years of preparing for a Chiefs game to be played involving Mr. Patrick Mahomes. Do you guys have a favorite AFC championship game memory that comes to mind? I mean, all of them are memorable to one extent or another.
Yeah, for sure.
Go ahead,
2022, the get back.
Revenge.
I think revenge. The revenge tour, the get back. Joe Burrow and the boys.
Very cold.
Walking into Arrowhead. All the smack talk that was going on. Us losing to them earlier in that year, going up to Cincinnati, watching the QB show and seeing how pissed off Pat was after that game, and basically breaking stuff in the locker room and things of that nature. And then to come full circle, I remember driving around the city, and I'm driving on like 30, I think it was like 35 highway or something like that, and I see this big sign that said "Revenge," and like I was like, "No way, we're losing this game, dog." Like I said, "No way." They're gonna go out there and lose this game. Obviously, like the Bengals were obviously gonna give us a hell of a game. I still remember that catch that Jamar Chase had in that game was
there were two guys,
absolutely insane.
Higgins dunked on somebody in that game too.
Yeah, Higgins catch, and then the tipped interception between Josh Williams and Cook and B. Cook, man. That game had so many great plays. Chris Jones on 3rd and 8 with the sack to kind of seal the deal for us, and then obviously pushing the roughing the passer of Patrick Mahomes, pushing the Joseph Osai, making probably one of the dumbest mistakes in Cincinnati Bengals history, pushing Patrick Mahomes. The mic'd up version of them talking about MVS being
going to 11.
Tyreek, the MVS legacy game.
That's Tyreek for him.
He went off that game. Like I've never seen. We'll probably never see a better game from MVS in our lives.
Hey, y'all know exactly because you reminded me of it, bro.
Right?
He going to 11.
That's Tyreek for him. He's going to 11. If 87 ain't get the ball, get to 11. That's Tyreek for him.
The fact that in the middle of the game, Jermaine Pratt is yelling that MVS is Tyreek Hill now.
Bro, that made it so much sweeter. That made the win that much better.
I just remember
one of the funnest games ever been to.
Being so elated after that. Like obviously winning the Super Bowl that year was incredible and felt great. Winning that game might have been just a little bit better than winning the Super Bowl.
And their fans was talking so crazy. There was this Bengals fan in my section sitting next to me. She had a sign. She said Arizona bound. No question in her mind they were winning this game. I'm like, so you think it's a lot? She's like, oh yeah, I already know we're going to win. I'm probably going to be out here by halftime. She was dead serious.
Yeah.
I had a whole argument with this lady the entire game, back and forth. I was like,
the cockiness.
Is it time to go?
That's really what she was saying. I was like,
the
wow.
cockiness, and like, bro, I honestly like I'm almost kind of sad that the Bengals haven't been as competitive as they should be over these last couple of years.
It was different with them.
Yeah, bro, like the rivalry just hit different, dog. Like you hate them at that point in time, but when you think about it, when you look back on it, you're like, bro, I wish those times would come back.
I always say, when you're in sports, and I know it's different for other people, it's certainly different, as far as basketball is concerned, because the divisions don't matter much. But for you to have a rival outside of your division, y'all gotta both beat each other when it matters most, in my opinion. For it to really hit for me, that's why I think the Eagles are a rival. I do think that the Bengals are a rival. I don't think the Ravens or Bills are a rival because they've never been able to get one off on us. And if you need that hatred back and forth where you took something from us and we took something from you, in my personal opinion, for it really to hit, and it did for the Cincinnati Bengals for the time in which they were competitive.
Sure. Yeah, nothing hit different than that game. It had everything you wanted, everything you needed. Obviously, had other great AFC titles. Going to Baltimore and beating them is obviously fun as well too. But that game, I'd never forget that game. Like that week, that game, that time period, the back and forth.
The mayor and all that.
The mayor.
Oh my God, the mayor. Oh, the mayor.
We're naming the city Burrowhead. I'm like,
Burrowhead, bro.
The Burrowhead.
Act like you won something before. Oh wait, you have.
Dog, I still gotta look. I still gotta thank Mike Hilton. I gotta thank Mike Hilton, dog. Mike Hilton made that whole rivalry so much better when he said that because. Amazing. To call, bro, Burrowhead, was just it was the cherry on top, dog. Thank you, Mike.
The way I know we weren't losing that game, we were obviously all tailgating before the game and watching it. Seeing Pat walk in and hit the camera with this, when I saw that, I knew we were.
Oh, the middle finger,
bro. If he's pissed off before he even gets into the locker room, he can just get out the car. I'm like, oh, we're winning. That's how I knew we were winning. And then everybody was doubting because they were like, Kelsey's back is locked up. And then Travis runs onto the field like a madman with his helmet off. He's like, let's fucking go. I was like, oh, yeah, we're winning today, bro. You don't care about
it. It was Chris Jones in his presser on Friday saying, we'll see y'all in Burrowhead. I was like, we're not losing, bro.
Everybody in that locker room was ready, bro.
That's literally the Cam Newton bet. All right, bet.
Yeah, all right, bet.
Everybody was locked in.
Y'all want to do this? Okay, we'll do this then.
Yeah, man. That game had everything you wanted. I think that's probably arguably one of the greatest AFC Championship games.
Frank Clark was playing out of his mind that game too.
The Colts
classic Frank game.
Crown me.
Give me my crown.
Give me my crown.
And then Frank Clark legendary.
What was talking about? I told him to come holler at me.
I told him
to come holler at me.
Come holler at me.
Hey man, there was such a huge narrative going into that game too, because Chris Jones had not had a playoff sack, and the pressure that they were put on Joe Burrow for the entirety of that game. And so many people forget this about that game. Just specifically, that game, the second snap of the game, L'Jarius Sneed goes out with a concussion. So the Chiefs have nothing but rookie DBs in that game versus that wide receiver core, and they still were able to get 2 interceptions off of Burrow. And Chris Jones with that final sack, man, just incredible. Getting that sack, rolling through the right tackle, waving goodbye to the crowd. Oh, it was a special game.
But special, man. Special.
That first
Bucker,
drive off the rip, Frank Clark was lit. He got the
right?
sack and looked at him and was doing this. He's like, "Yeah, we here." And then you hear the mic'd up the way they was talking. They was locked in from jump.
Willie
bro.
Gay was juiced up, man. Oh, it was
The whole
it was
crowd
incredible.
was hyped, bro. That's probably one of
After
the most hyped games I've ever been to.
after we won, I remember I was living in a different house at that point in time. But I ran out it was freezing cold that night.
It was
man.
dumb cold. That
So
game
I
was so
had,
cold, bro.
You know,
Couldn't
obviously
feel my
being
toes.
inside, you just got your Chief shirt and your shorts on. I ran outside, and I remember I had a neighbor down the street. I had never talked to this man in my life, like
What's up, bro?
ever. We literally leapt into each other's arms and hugged.
Let's go.
Let's go! I never had spoken to him ever. I didn't even know.
That's what Chief Kingdom is, bro. That's what it is. Brings
That's
everyone
what it is.
together.
Absolutely. And then I will say this as well. For those that talk about, hey, quarterbacks not having enough help, all that sorts of jazz. Not a lot of rushing help in this game. Mahomes still 326 and 2 touchdowns, by the way. And this was the core that he was throwing to, because they lost Kadarius Toney early in this game. Mecole Hardman went out in this game as well.
Yep.
And Juju was on one knee in this game and ultimately wasn't able to contribute much. And Patrick Mahomes was throwing, first down conversions to Marcus Kemp at a certain point, because that's just what it took. Patrick Mahomes still had to get it done, and he did. And that's what Patrick Mahomes does. Not every quarterback can do that. That's just the reality.
Shout out to MVS, man. Like that catch he had.
Shout out to playoff MVS, man.
The fader when he's like twisting his body.
Yeah, that's a impressive catch.
I was like, oh my god.
But yeah, so that.
Yes, when he's sitting on the ground and he looks at Mike Hilton, he's like,
yes.
He's scoring. He held on to it.
He held on to it.
Too little.
And again, these are the things y'all got to understand. His ankle was destroyed a week earlier. So he's on one leg doing this.
Running around on one leg.
That game had every storyline, every bit of adversity, everything. That was a press writer's dream game. Right
it was.
Absolutely.
You had I know Nate Taylor was like out of his
mind. I don't know what to
right
write. What should I pick?
Right about everything, man.
That was the over my dead body game for Mahomes for sure. Out of all the games he's had in his career, that's the one. Like, we're not losing this damn game, bro. I don't care what we got to do. I'm gonna find a way. And that's Pat's like old saying, just find a way to win, bro. He did that.
Blowing out Josh Allen in the first one, obviously a great one. Being able to get Josh Allen the second time, also a great AFC Championship game. Robbing the bank, obviously we had a lot of fun with that. Especially going on the road, being able to take out Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. I will say the only one that I put up there with the Cincinnati Bengals win is the Tennessee Titans, just because of how much it meant being able to get the Super Bowl. That's just always going to have a special place.
Sammy scored.
Sammy scored.
You're like,
every yelling Sammy.
The feeling of anxiety just lifted from your shoulders. Like, we're really gonna go to the Super Bowl.
Just incredible, man.
That's just like that day too. Shout out to that game.
Spectacular. So that first one, that's a feeling that you're never gonna forget. And even the losses, were memorable to a certain extent. Yes. The 2021 one obviously just really is a devastating one specifically. But 2018 was almost hey, we got a guy that we know can go toe to toe with Tom Brady. And that means so much, just point blank period. And that would be a preview of things to come. So all things considered, a lot of championship game memories, and hope that we will see the Chiefs right back here next year. With that being said, we can get to the preview. We did have a watch of Mr. Josh Allen turning the ball over 4 times in Denver.
5
and
really
losing
before
that game.
Recorded.
Yeah, and losing that game in Denver. Ultimately, Bo Nix did hurt his ankle and had an ankle fracture second to last play of the game. In the other game, CJ Stroud absolutely imploded in New England, and they will move on to face said Denver Broncos for the AFC Championship game. NFC side, Rams and Bears played a snowy thriller in which Caleb Williams made, again for the second straight week, one of the most impressive throws given the context of the situation you will ever see. But the Rams ultimately were able to pull it out in overtime, and they will go and face the Seattle Seahawks, who beat the brakes off of the 49ers and blew them out. So championship game predictions, anybody not picking the Patriots?
No.
Yeah,
No.
I don't.
You're not about to,
I can't.
Their defense will fight. They'll keep it scrappy.
Yeah.
They may get a turnover or two because Drake may have been prone to not only fumbling the ball, but turning the ball over through interception. So I expect them to get – I wish you could bet on fumble. DG, I hit a lick if I could have bet on fumbles. My goodness, especially this past weekend.
Everybody was dropping the ball. My goodness.
You dropped the ball.
It's insane.
So I put up Drake may throw interception.
I tweeted it out there. Somebody put up a graphic about, bottom 10 like EPA per play or EPA per dropback, I should say, performances from quarterbacks. And like 3 of them have happened this year just from AFC quarterbacks alone. I'm like, Mahomes is out of the playoffs, and all of a sudden, AFC quarterbacks forget how to play the position. The pathway exists for some Patriots turnovers, stifling defense from the Broncos, and Jarrett Stidham is somebody that Sean Payton believes a lot in. It's just highly unlikely. And that's just the reality of it. So Patriots should win that NFC Championship game. Seattle or Rams?
I got the Rams.
I'm going Rams too.
As much as I know that the Seahawks have had a great year, and they're like, there's something in me that just cannot buy into Sam Darnold being in Santa Clara. I don't know what it is. Like,
it's all world.
Yes, bro. And I just think these games eventually at some point come down to your quarterback having to make a play. And
they got the guy.
I'm curious to see if Sam Darnold can do that. Maybe he'll prove me wrong on Sunday and do that. But I gotta go with who I the better quarterback, and that's Matthew Stafford at this point. So I
don't like the fact that Charbonnet's hurt, and I don't like the fact that the last time these two teams played, Devontae Adams was not on the field, and it took a Rashid Shaheed punt return and I think a late pick by them to win, which is very capable. Like, Matt Stafford's not as often throwing interceptions. We definitely like to do that. I think he probably will throw one in this game. But I think if the Rams are put in that position again where they are up, I don't see them folding it like they did the way last time they played. And like I said, they were heavy 13 personnel. Devontae wasn't on the field. Charbonnet not being there is a huge, huge loss because Kenny Walker's an amazing back, but he can't carry the load all by himself. Though that two-headed monster, that tandem helped their run game be that explosive because you had one guy come off the field, another guy was fresh who was just as powerful, just as fast. So I think that will be a hit to their offense. It'll be a close game. Not saying it'll be a blowout by any means, but like DG stated, it's going to come down to one drive, and I'm never betting against Matt Stafford over Sam Darnold. Just can't do it. As much as I love the Seattle defense, it's good enough to win you a championship 3 times. I think Sean McVay figures it out, man. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be like a 3-point game for sure.
I will say I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl for pretty much since midway through the year.
I had them in the NFC too.
They haven't looked their best. That's the concerning part. I am tempted to switch up and go with the Seattle Seahawks. I don't know if I'm ultimately going to stick with this. We'll see. And they're playing so damn good, and that defense is really good. But we've seen the Rams be able to take advantage of it. I'll go with the Rams. I think they'll get it done. The experience on the road, McVay and Stafford, they'll get the job done. And I think that they're really good. And their defense played very well versus the Bears last week, which I think was very important. I want to see a good game. I don't know if necessarily Patriots Broncos is going to end up being a good game. I think it definitely can be. But I want to see a good game, and I want to see how Sam Darnold responds to put the pressure on. That's what I want.
Absolutely. They're going to be a drive where we have to move the ball for sure. It just messed up. Last time he saw them, Stafford threw for 457 with no Devontae. Yeah. So if there isn't any quarterback that's equipped to make that defense struggle, I think it's him. And there's any coach that knows you. It's the guy that sees you twice a year. Well, this will be the 3rd time. So I think Sean McVay, I think they figure it out, man.
Yeah. Nah, look, I think that they'll be able to put up points. I just want them to not fold under pressure.
For sure.
That's all I want.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, we only got one last thing to do. Got to later west. And
but we got a lot of choices this week. But I think we got one.
There's really only one I can go with personally. I don't know about y'all. I feel bad. Honestly.
Not the best quarterback in the world.
That's what I want to later rest. I want to later rest all of you idiots that try to give somebody the crown without earning it. Because if you want to be the best in the world, you have to win. And it's not winning in November. It's win in February. And if you can't even make it to February, then you can't sit on the throne. That's not how this works. So I'm laying to rest everybody that claimed that Josh Allen was the best in the world, because this is how it ended. 4 turnovers and him crying in the press conference.
I let my team
That's your
down.
king right there. That's your king.
I didn't play well.
That's your king.
Let my team down.
And he took more responsibility for that loss than other people were willing to do so on his behalf.
That's a fact.
That's a damn shame. If he could hold himself accountable, why can't y'all?
That's all we have.
Laying him to rest, Josh Allen.
Sayonara.
Best quarterback in home.
See you next year.
Bad news, they gave you life. Sayonara.
Sayonara, Josh. Sayonara.
You and Bills Mafia.
Yeah.
Sean McDermott, sayonara.
This was supposed to be y'all year. Now y'all got more broken tables, broken dreams, and no head coach. Wish you the best.
Sayonara.
Y'all scapegoated that head coach too, because the defense kept you in the game. After
and y'all scapegoated that stadium too. I think this new stadium about to be better look. We're better look stadium.
Y'all can't even cry about the refs properly and say it was us. Y'all you're like, it's got to be the refs at this point. No, it's not a grand conspiracy. I promise y'all. Y'all just losers.
Y'all cursed, boy. I thought the Chargers was bad. Y'all worse than them.
Imagine having your season ended by Bo Nix.
Bo Nix
ending your season, bro. That's so nasty.
Nasty work.
And he played well.
He played well. He did play well. He played better than Josh Allen.
Saying Bo Nix outplayed Josh Allen is crazy.
He did.
What?
It happened.
He did.
You like that, dog?
It occurred.
Bro, that fumble before halftime was so bad.
That fumble before halftime is one of the worst turnovers I've ever seen in my life. Considering the fact that there's literally no upside to him running right there, because they don't have timeouts in the middle of the field. The fact that he decided to do it and then managed to fumble and handed 3 points back to the other team, incredible.
And you lost by those same 3 points.
Your defense got a turnover, and then you throw a pick on the next possession.
The next play. They got a pick right back. I'm like, dang, didn't even give him a break. They sat down. Shit, we back up.
Yeah. Deion Walker ain't even catch his breath after he caught the pick.
Boy, caught a pick, was hyped as hell, got some oxygen. Shit,
he barely finished celebrating in the end zone before he had to go back in there.
Couldn't even sit down.
Bro, don't ever put best QB next to his name ever again. I don't want to ever hear that ever again.
And it's not even the fact that, obviously, well, he's playing against Denver defense again. If you had told me going into that game, James Cook runs for 100 yards, I said they probably win that game. They have a good chance to win. Because they can establish a run, that means going to help everything open up underneath for their tight ends, for their limited receivers. Josh can extend plays. But if you also tell me they have 4 turnovers, I'm like, they're guaranteed going to lose. I don't care who the quarterback is. You turn the ball over as an offense 5 times. And it's crazy. I didn't even realize this. James Cook led the league in fumbles. I did not know that until that game. That was crazy. I did not know that stat. So I'm like, well, your 2 best players let the game down. It's kind of wild. So.
And James Cook had himself a really good game outside of the.
That's why it's so crazy. I'm like, he had a great game. I did not know he led the league in fumbles until that game. I was like, wow, he did.
Did we put Deion Dawkins to rest too?
Oh my God, yeah, absolutely.
These guys are corny.
And honestly, that's corny. I don't even. I'm not gonna say I feel bad, but it's not that I don't necessarily feel good about Josh Allen crying in the press conference. I feel great about Deion Dawkins.
He said
crying in the press conference.
I love this
because he wanted to open his mouth so many times about Kansas City. Like we didn't continue to send him home every time that it mattered. And I promise you, everybody in that locker room was like, "Oh, the Chiefs aren't here. This is going to be our year. We would have beat the Eagles. We would give them a much better fight next year." Yeah, well, guess what? You're crying in at home and you still.
Chef's kiss, man.
Goodbye.
I
sayonara.
For watching Deion Dawkins cry, to watching Tre'Davious White throw his helmet, to seeing
the ref,
seeing Joey Bosa walking up the tunnel and throwing his helmet too, just knowing he's probably never gonna see a Super Bowl. It filled my soul,
It warms my heart.
The Chiefs fan in me just made me all warm and fuzzy inside.
That was an elite hate watch for sure. Because I was like, DG, I had full belief that the Bills were going to find a way to win that football game.
I
And
thought
that's
so
just
too.
how the script made sense. Like, okay, no Lamar, no Joe, no Pat. He's going to find a way to get to the bowl. It just lined up. And that's kind of how the timelines met when it was Brady and Manning all those years. When Brady went down with the knee injury, guess who went to the Super Bowl that year? The Colts. So it's like it just made sense of like, well, maybe it's just his time, bro. I've never want to see anybody win on Mahomes' watch, but then for you to play like that, it's like losing is one thing. Josh played awful, and that's the worst game he's had in his playoff career. You pick now to do that, not when you're playing the Chiefs, not when you're playing the Ravens, not when you're playing the Bengals. You picked it versus going against Bo Nix, and you now want to turn the ball over 4 times? Oh, that's tough. And I think that's why everybody was crying so much. Like, damn, we really played like shit against this time. Like, wow.
Boogeyman wasn't here.
And you got to say goodbye to your stadium.
Yeah, look, the good news is there's a nice floor in the Rotel Inn in Cancun for the ringless teams. You can go over there with the Falcons and the Panthers and the Bengals and just enjoy that. Okay. Yep. We'll be championship cabana, but
have a good time. And
they're
there too.
Yeah. They got bingo and punch cards for free margaritas and guest service.
Don't worry. Karaoke starts at 7. It's a hell of a time.
There you go. Have yourself a grand old time. With that being said, we will go ahead and wrap it up. Underdog Fantasy code 23 for $100 deposit match. Obviously, NFL playoffs are in full swing. Championship weekend, go in there and place your plays as far as that aspect. NHL, NBA in full swing. Tennis underway. Australian Open is back, man. I'm watching some late night tennis and having some fun with that. Anything else going on? Winter Olympics is coming up. I don't know if they'll end up having anything for Winter Olympics, but keep a lookout on that. And obviously, they'll have plenty for the Super Bowl in 3 weeks' time. I think that'll be it, guys. Meet us back here next week. We'll be doing our review as far as key players on the Chiefs roster and what that'll look like as far as key decision to be made moving into the offseason. We'll also be doing our foundational players on both sides of the ball and see if any other news comes up as well. I assume Red Shirt is coming back tomorrow. A little bit more portal news, and obviously wrapping up the national championship game. Getting cast on Thursday night. PMAC on Friday. We will see you guys back here on Tuesday. Peace out. Go Chiefs.